Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Going from 9 till 12. Okay. There's no purports on any of those, though. 14. 14 has. So 9 to 14. And what time does the class go up till? 9 o'clock, they have breakfast. Okay. Okay, text 9. My dear king, in the imitation plant heavens known as Bilaswarg, there's a great demon called Mayadanava, who is an expert artist and architect. He has constructed many brilliantly decorated cities. There are many wonderful houses, walls, gates, assembly houses, temples, yards, and temple compounds, as well as many hotels serving as residential quarters for foreigners. The houses for the leaders of these planets are constructed with the most valuable jewels. They are always crowded with living entities known as Nagas and Asuras, as well as many pigeons, parrots, and similar birds. All in all, these imitation heavenly cities are most beautifully situated and attractively decorated. The gardens, parks and gardens in the artificial heavens surpass in beauty those of the upper heavenly planets. The trees in those gardens, embraced by creepers, bend with a heavy burden of twigs with fruits and flowers, and therefore they appear extraordinarily beautiful. That beauty could attract anyone and make his mind fully blossom in the pleasure of sense gratification. There are many lakes and reservoirs with clear, transparent water, agitated by jumping fish, and decorated with many flowers such as lilies, kuvalayas, kahlaras, and blue and red lotuses. Pairs of chakravakas and many other water birds nest in the lakes, and always enjoy in a happy mood, making sweet, pleasing vibrations that are very satisfying and conducive to enjoyment of the senses. Text 11. Since there is no sunshine in those subterranean planets, time is not divided into days and nights, and consequently fear produced by time does not exist. Many great serpents reside there with gems on their hoods, and the effulgence of these gems dissipates the darkness in all directions. Since the residents of these planets drink and bathe in juices and elixirs made from wonderful herbs, they are freed from all anxieties and physical diseases. They have no experience of gray hair, wrinkles, or invalidity. Their bodily lusters do not fade. Their perspiration does not cause a bad smell, and they are not troubled by fatigue or by lack of energy or enthusiasm due to old age. They live very auspiciously and do not fear death from anything but death's established time, which is the effulgence of the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. This is the defect of material existence. Everything in the subterranean heavens is very nicely arranged. They are well-situated residential quarters. There is a pleasing atmosphere, and there are no bodily inconveniences or mental anxieties. But nevertheless, those who live there have to take another birth according to karma. Persons whose minds are dull cannot understand this defect of a materialistic civilization, aiming at material comforts. One may make his living conditions very pleasing for the senses, but despite all favorable conditions, one must in due course of time meet death. The members of a demoniac civilization endeavor to make their living conditions very comfortable, but they cannot check death. The influence of the Sudarshan Chakra will not allow their so-called material happiness to endure. So here we have those individuals, the demons, who their whole focus is on how to produce very nice arrangements of sense gratification. Their goal is sense gratification. So they're not interested in something else because they don't see the need for it, right? They've performed their pious activities. They've elevated themselves to this very nice situation, and their only purpose is to enjoy this situation. They don't have a different idea. Right? There's no other goal. So everything is arranged very perfectly there, because there's no problems, everybody's enthusiastic, no one feels any difficulty. So they can put full effort into making everything very nice. But having made everything very nice, as Prabhupada points out, there's still one defect, is that they will die, they will take birth again. And we have to remember, piety is like money. As you use it, it disappears. Right? You have some money, you spend it, it's gone. So you have piety, you use it, it's gone. So what your next birth will be, what facilities you have, that you can't guarantee. Then you also have the difficulty is, since there's been such nice arrangements materially, one will be attached to that kind of situation, and then when one doesn't have that, then you will see that the piety goes down, right? Because you want to maintain a certain level of sense gratification, but it's not coming naturally, so you have to work for it outside of what is the performance of proper duties, and so therefore then you take on sinful activities. That gives a very different result than the pious activities. So now then there'll be unfavorable situations, there'll be suffering, all this. So this still goes on. Even though it's a very, very nice situation, how long can you stay there? Right? Just like you have, let's say, a very nice place in the city, a nice garden or some nice building or things like that. You go there, it's very nice, it's very pleasant, you can sit there, you can take a snack, you can talk with friends. How long can you stay? At some point you have to leave. So that's the whole point. One has to see that bigger picture, that you have to leave. Right? Otherwise you think, oh, that sounds very nice, all these things that are explained. And yes, they are very nice. But the problem with it, they're designed just for sense gratification. So that's why, because one may wonder, why is it more beautiful and nicely arranged than the heavenly planets? Because the heavenly planets, because of the mode of goodness, it's actually arranged for being God conscious. Though it's the best possible arrangements you can have, so therefore it's the heavenly planets. While on the earth planet, then even more it's arranged for God consciousness, because it's not such nice facilities, less to get distracted by. Right? While on the heavenly planets, then it's arranged for God consciousness, but because it's nice arrangements, one can get distracted. But in the the lower heavenly planets, then there is just designed for sense gratification. So there's no interest in some self-realization, for elevating, because they don't see what's the need. They don't see any difficulties. They don't feel any difficulties. So for them, what's the need of pursuing something more? So it's just a very nice waste of time. That's what has to be seen. It's because at some point, it's not that, okay, this is there, I shouldn't enjoy this, or that's there, I shouldn't enjoy that. That's not actually the main process. These are processes, right? Control of the senses, performance of austerity, giving in charity, brahmacharya, all these things are processes. But that's not actually the main process. The main process is not seeing things separate from Krishna. Right? We see sense gratification because we see it separate from Krishna. That's why it keeps mentioning that it's very nicely arranged for sense enjoyment. Because that's the whole point. It's arranged in that way because there's no concept that Krishna is involved. That's sense gratification. When we see the same thing without separating it from Krishna, then we see it in relation to Krishna, so it's not sense gratification. Does that make sense? So that's what we're trying to get to. That's how the devotee arranges their lives. In what way you can arrange things that you can remember Krishna, that you will remember Krishna, not forget him. That's the rule. That's how you make arrangements. While for the demons on these lower planets, they're how you could say the Sutradhara is never remember Krishna, always forget him, right? So that's how they like to do things, right? Because if you remember Krishna, where's the sense gratification? And if you forget him, that's where you find sense gratification, right? So that's their purpose. So that's why they arrange it that way. That's why it points out that it's very nice, because that's all it is. While in the higher levels of the Vedic civilization, then you see it's nice arrangements that are connected with the Lord. Like you say here, the arrangements are very beautiful, but they're in connection with the Lord. So they're not for sense gratification, but they're very pleasing to the senses, but they're not for sense gratification. That's the difference. Well, if we take this and we put all this nice arrangements in some, palace or a hotel or like this, it's for sense enjoyment. We have that appreciation has to be there, is that engagement of the senses is not the problem. It's is the engagement of the senses connected to Krishna or not? Right? Like prasad, tastes nice. It's connected to Krishna. It's not offered to Krishna, then it's sense gratification. Same taste. Right? So we have to be able to distinguish that this is actually the principle that we're trying to establish. We're trying to establish this principle that whatever we do is in connection with Krishna. Otherwise, then, if it's not connected with Krishna, then it's a problem. Right? That's the real point. So it's not about how austere you are or this or that, how knowledgeable. It's how much is connected to Krishna. That's what you're trying to do. If that's done, then everything becomes perfect. If that's not done, then it's just a very nice waste of time. That's all. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Any questions on this? Yes. So questions are always written, or? Okay, question. I heard from His Holiness Bhakticharu Swami Maharaj that living in subterranean heavens is like living in a palace, and then being informed that our son has been murdered. Then why is the word auspicious used in the 14th verse? It's auspicious because everything is done very nicely. It's all according to the recommendations in the scriptures. The point is these lower heavenly planets, as we pointed out, is that one will leave. Let's say you're just in an ordinary place. Let's say you're sitting in the bus stand. Do you mind leaving the bus stand? When the bus comes, do you have a problem leaving the bus stand? You're so attached to the bus stand, such a nice bus stand. Right? No, but here, these places are so wonderful, you have to leave. That's the problem. Right? They're not affected by time. So they don't have that anxiety of time, but it doesn't mean time is not passing. See, just because there's no days and nights down there doesn't mean that there's not days and nights up here. So when a year is finished up here, the year is finished down there. And your time's up. Does that make sense? So we have to understand is that the principle of sense gratification, that doesn't make it any nicer. It's nice, but at the same time as how nice is it? Okay, Here, it's nice, right? In the morning, the sun comes out, and there's the whole flavor of the morning. And then in the evening, there's the flavor of that, right? There's that variety. Let's say you go into a mall, right? You have malls here, right? Big malls, right? What do? They try to make them very attractive, right? They try to make them very nice for where you can sit, where you can eat, where you can go and buy, just walk around. Is there sun? Is there day and night? You go at 10 in the morning, you go at 10 at night, they're exactly the same. That's how it's like there. It's like living in a monster mall. You know what I'm saying? So it has a flavor that seems very nice, but that's the only flavor. That's all there is. So there's no problems, things like that. But at the same time, it's just a big mall, and its purpose is sense gratification. So you have to leave. Yes?
First of all, thank you for this explanation. I have a follow-up question.
Follow-up question, okay.
First of all, please accept my humble obeisances. And my follow-up question is, the subterranean heavenly planets are auspicious and therefore Vedic. Yes?
No, the arrangements are auspicious. The people living there and their mentality, that's not necessarily so auspicious. Okay. See, it depends how you define auspicious. So you have the level of auspicious means you're doing things according to Scripture. But the actual auspiciousness is you're doing things in connection to Krishna. So the Bhagavatam definition of auspicious means it's in connection with Krishna, so that's auspicious. And if it's not connected to Krishna, it's sinful. So in this way, that's why we say that lower planets are sinful. We're not saying that they don't follow Scripture, and therefore everything goes nicely according to mundane auspiciousness. But because there's no concept of God consciousness, it's sinful. So that's why those who live there are sinful. It's not that a sinful person can't do pious things, right? Let's just like around here. Do you have, how you say, kind of, what do you call it? Like, what's your, Bengali we call them, like, you have the people that they're like a crime boss, like a mafia kind of guys, like that.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't go to the temple, they don't give in charity, they don't take care of old ladies and kids and all that. Yeah, they do that. So from that side, they're pious. But overall, their lifestyle, is it pious? No, it's impious. So that's what it's like on those lower planets.
So,
you understand? So you have to be able to understand the definitions of auspicious and what they're talking about. So it's a very nice arrangement. Just like you go into any, let's say you have some new hotels here, some big hotels. You go into that, they're nice arrangements, but what's the place for? Right? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, right? So then, how auspicious is it? But according to the rules of aesthetics and all these things, they've arranged it very nicely. Does that make sense?
Sure. Finally, this concept of sense gratification, to have better sense gratification, people tend to go to the higher heavenly planets. So why are they not motivated to go down if it is much better than the higher?
But how do you define much better? You're saying it's much better. Why is it much better?
Much better because Bali Maharaj lives in the subterranean heavenly planets, and it has been said in the Bhagavatam that it's much better than the heavenly planets.
Yes, but where did why if Bali Maharaj had stayed on Sutala, would there have been any problem?
Sure. So why?
You know what I'm saying? So they're going up to these higher planets.
Sure. So what I'm trying to say is, people do different Vedic sacrifices.
No.
Yes.
The point is not what you're trying to say, is do you know what you're trying to say? See, because you've come to the conclusion that the lower heavenly planets are better than the higher heavenly planets. Because it mentions they want more sense gratification, but you haven't caught the term what sense gratification means.
So
Sense gratification means on the lower heavenly planets there's more sense gratification because they're only interested in the senses. Right? Now, those on the higher heavenly planets, how do they get there? By being really pious demons? No, by being pious devotees. So they're devotees. So as a devotee, do you want more sense gratification than just what comes with, the service and all that? Like the pujaris. Like the reason, this is an unknown fact, right? Pujaris become pujaris because they just love the perfect, beautiful arrangements that are there. Because if they work somewhere else, then there's not nice arrangements, like in the brahmacharya ashram and that. Handles falling off, everything's dirty in that. But in the deity room, look at this, all the nice gold color and the woodwork and details and the flowers. So that's why they work in the deity department, because it's just such superior engagement of the senses, right? Isn't that it? You sure?
apparently.
Apparently. So therefore you're thinking, oh, these pujaris, they're getting so much sense gratification, and we others, we're missing out on all this nice sense gratification. Are you catching this or not?
Of course I'm catching it, but that's the ultimate sense. What I'm trying to say.
So no. The point is you've said what you've said.
Yes, definitely.
And so now we're discussing what you've said. Because the point of saying things is not just to add to the global warming, right? You're supposed to say things because you want to know something and get somewhere.
Yes.
Because you've asked, why is it that people would, given the choice of going to heaven or going to the lower heavenly planets, why would they pick the higher heavenly planets, right? Because you're looking at better sense gratification means better. So is that actually the proper mentality? Or God consciousness is the most important thing, and the reason that there's nice arrangements is all this arrangements, were they made for the pujaris? You just keep nodding your head. Where did you, let's see, okay. What's your background?
Oh, I used to be an engineer.
An engineer, okay. So you're used to nodding your head, right? Everyone, the man comes out, so yes, I want this over here. Yes, Saturday, yes. Yeah, okay, nice. But you're supposed to think, right? In the brain, there's cogs, they move together and that, so they should move and they should, like that, the reasoning process. So all this, Bhakti Truma has arranged all this nice decorations just for the pujaris, right? See, again, you're still nodding your head.
Yes.
See, why is it you're nodding your head yes and everybody else is going no? That's what we're trying to get to. This is the point.
So the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that in the Bhagavad Gita it has been said that those who want sense gratification, they go high. They try to get to the heavenly planets.
No, but you're not catching the point. See, you're attached to a detail. Mm-hmm. There's a principle. Okay, like in engineering, okay? If you notice, every so many, 1, 2, 3, 4.5 meters, there's a kind of square thing sticking out from the wall, right?
Yes.
And then it goes back a little bit back into a flat thing, and then it sticks out again. But on top of that column there, then there's another thing that's equal with that going the other way.
Yes.
So is the main concept of that just the sense gratification, or is there a principle of engineering that if it's not like that, the building will fall down?
It's not just for sense gratification. It's for the temple, and temple is for devotional service.
Okay. Now when we're talking on the secondary point, now you're starting to talk primary. And when we're talking primary, then you're talking secondary. Okay. See, the arrangements are made nice for the deities. Okay, since you always nod your head, we'll say positive things, so when you nod, it'll be correct. Okay? we didn't make this so that it's just for the pujaris and the deities just don't really matter, right? It's for the deities and the pujaris are serving. So then, as the example is given, as the king is in a nice place, the servants are also in the same nice place enjoying the same thing. But it's not about their enjoyment, it's about the king's enjoyment, right? Okay? We understand that one, okay? So, but it's all about the senses, right? Making these nice designs and all that are about the senses, but it's connected to the Lord. So, if you, as a devotee, had a choice to be in a situation like this that looks very beautiful, and it's connected to the deities, or you could be in a place that is as beautiful, if not more beautiful, but it has nothing to do with the deities, which would you pick?
I would pick the temple.
But according to what you just said, why would anybody pick the temple when there's more sense gratification on the lower heavenly planets? Why would they pick the upper heavenly planets when they could pick the lower? So you're being inconsistent.
So to go up means to go closer to Krishna.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. That's what we were trying to get at. Okay? Yes. Yes. You get the mic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
As you know that in this universe there is only one sun.
Yes.
So all the upper planetary systems are being illuminated by one sun. So
Yes.
so does sunshine doesn't go in the lower planetary systems?
No. It means the Earth mandala is too big. It goes from one side of the universe to the other. There's a little gap, but it goes all the way across. So that means it's nearly 2 billion miles across. Right? So that, but underneath all these lower subterranean heavy planets, they're only 10,000 yojanas across. So that means the Earth is very big and they're quite small underneath. So the sun cannot get to them. That's why there's no day and night. But it mentioned that all the Nagas that live there, because the Nagas live on the, I think, bottom heavenly planet and the next up heavenly planet. I mean, no, and the third from the bottom. Right? So they live on Patal and then 2 up from that. That's their place. But what it mentions here, that because there's, tourism, people move around to the different heavenly planets. So the effulgence from the jewels of these Nagas then lights the whole place, because they're not so wide, so that light going out will light them all. So they're all pleasantly lit, and we can see here from the point that all these trees and creepers are all growing, so there must be enough light. It's just like people grow plants in artificial light, no? They have a go down and then they put lights and they grow plants, and like hydroponics, all these things, they're all done. They're not a natural environment. So that's what it's like there. It's just all the effulgence from the jewels on the Naga's head that lights all those 7 planetary systems.
Then how does sunshine goes to higher planetary systems? Like they have different...
There is no sunset. That's what it meant. There is no day, there is no night. That's why I gave the example of being in a mall.
No, I'm speaking higher planetary systems.
Because the sun is there. Sun moves around Meru. You understand? So for us, he's moving around Meru. That makes for our day. But for the heavenly planets above, then when he moves, he goes up and he goes down. So then when he's up, then that's their day, and when he's down, it's their night.
So it's not like this, like, as you know, all the 14 planetary systems are within the lotus stem.
Everything's within the lotus stem, but the sun's also within the lotus stem.
So
everything's within the lotus stem.
So does that mean that the size of this, each and every planetary systems are same? No, it's different.
Each universe.
No, each planetary systems, like Bhur, Bhuvo, Janalok, Tapalok.
Means are they the same?
Same in size, and
no, they're all different. It mentions this is what this canto is defining, is all the difference in sizes. So he mentioned about that the 7 talas below are all 10,000 yojanas wide. right?
No, I'm speaking in terms of size, like
Size.
in breadth and length, and
10,000 yojanas is not a breadth and length. It's a number, right? You have a 1, you put 5 zeros after it, you get 10,000, right? Then that's a yojana, right? So yojana is 8 miles, so that means then 80,000 miles. So if you're a kilometer walla, then that would make it 120,000 kilometers. So is that not a size? You know? Or does
one
the
more
size have to come in an Amazon box? Or, I mean, what's going on here?
one more question. Those who are living in subterranean heavenly planets, do they have also like subtle bodies? Because
Do they have
subtle body.
sattvaguna? Why would they want
No, subtle body, subtle.
subtle body?
Yeah. Like we have gross body.
Everybody has gross body, subtle body, and the karana sharira. Everybody's got that.
But I read somewhere that those who are living in lower planetary systems, completely they are based on gross level and like earthly
Gross
being.
because that's where their focus is. Gross doesn't mean they don't have other. Means how are you enjoying the senses, right? Are the senses gross? No, the body's gross, and the senses are subtle, and they're controlled by the intelligence and mind, and then they have to have an identity. So when it says they're daityas, danavas, nagas, they identify as that. You know, just like here, in Jai Hind, there's an identity. So they, you know, Jai Patala, you know, it says that they identify. That's why when Prahlad Maharaj talks to Hiranyakashipu and says, "Oh, best of the demons," does he feel bad? He's a demon. He's the best, so he feels good. Are we getting somewhere here? See, is gross means that's where their consciousness is. Gross doesn't mean that physically it has to be there. See, one has to be able to understand how a word is being used. Language is there to express something. And so then you have words that are being used. The word is not non-different, right? We're not talking about Hare Krishna. That's non-different. But when we say these other things, they say it's beautiful. It's not that the word and the thing are synonymous. So it's something that gives us an understanding of what's there. So if you say someone, you don't have here that you have, you know, humans on this planet here or here, you know, even here in Ujjain that aren't gross, that are they're only interested in just day-to-day life or sense gratification. So that's gross. And then let's say there's someone who's a scholar and appreciates fine things. You'll say he's more subtle. That doesn't mean you can't see him, right? Let's say you have a conference, you know, at the big new hotel, and coming to that conference will be all great scholars and connoisseurs, but the regular people can't see them because they're subtle, right? You can't, you know, where are they? No, but the place is packed. You can't see them all. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to catch, when Bhagavatam's using these terms, what they're meaning. Because the words change according to the position. Right? Does that make sense? So, you know, it's like I can say here, okay, this table is big. Right? You know, if you compare it to other Bhagavatam class tables, it's big. But as far as tables go, is this big? You understand? So the same term, it has different applications. So one has to catch that gross has different applications. It's okay? Yeah. So in other words, try to fit everything into a formula or a consistency of its connection to Krishna. Because if we work at it from the external and its connections, there'll always be inconsistencies that don't make sense. That's how you have munis. Muni, this one says this, that one says that, and they're both saying the opposite things, and they'll go on fighting forever. But the principle that's common, that doesn't change. Like Narad Muni has no problem dealing with anybody because he's working on that primary aspects. But if we work on the secondary aspects, the external only, then there's going to be a difference. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's always going to be there. Is that okay? Something else? Yes.
Thank you for your class, Maharaj. Your main point was like whatever we do should be connected to Krishna.
Yes.
And for example, in the life of a devotee, we do some austerity. For example, we can Ekadasi. And so how can we define an austerity connected to Krishna? What should be the definition of doing some tapasya connected to Krishna? Because there is different level of...
Yeah, the level is based on how much is it for Krishna. Means, okay, you're performing Ekadasi. It's just because, you have a thing against grains, and so for 2 days a month you don't eat grains and that, and like that. Or because if you follow Ekadasi, then it's better for health and all that. It gives the break to the body so that it doesn't have to deal with the grains, which are harder to digest and all that, and that's why we follow Ekadasi. Or if we follow Ekadasi, then that piety can elevate us to the heavenly planets, and then we can get all kinds of nice facilities in there, and then on the heavenly planets we don't have to worry about following Ekadasi, because there it's just about having a good time. Or or we're following Ekadasi because we're trying to we're trying to give up the attachment to the body and the situations like that. So in that position of detachment, then that detachment will give rise to the happiness of non-material, enjoyment. So we'll get liberation from that. Or let's say ultimately we're doing it because by following Ekadasi, it really annoys our mother-in-law, and that gives us the greatest happiness. Does that make sense? So why are we following Ekadasi? It pleases Krishna. That's the level. So that's the topmost level. In other words, following an Ekadasi is a dharma, right? There's a dharma is there, a nature of something, and so Ekadasi has its dharma. How you follow Ekadasi, right? You can't be eating a pizza and call it Ekadasi, right? So Ekadasi means that there's some considerations of fasting, what you're eating. You might consider other aspects of lifestyle and all that. So it's a dharma, right? Now, why are we following that dharma, right? We gave so many examples of what we could be doing it for. But then as you mentioned, then we're doing it to please Krishna. So that's sarva dharmam parityaja. It means we're giving up all these religions for the benefit we can get from the religion and just doing it because it pleases Krishna. That's the level that we're looking for. Otherwise, yes, there's so many other levels. That's where the confusion comes up. But if we look at it from the other point, no, it's about pleasing Krishna. Then the levels come down to, are we trying to please Krishna on Ekadasi, but our consciousness is more of a neophyte, or we've come to the Madhyama platform or to the Uttama platform. But otherwise, then, so those there's no disagreement on, because those are one natural thing. Disagreement will come of what's the actual purpose of following Ekadasi if we're not considering Krishna. Someone's following to go to the heavenly planets, someone's following for better material facilities, someone's following for liberation. There's going to be an argument of which is better. Right? But if you're dealing with devotees, the neophyte, the madhyama, and uttama, no one's going to disagree that prema is not the goal. It's just a matter of how much as an individual, I've realized it. Does that make sense? Difference? So that's what we're trying to get to, is that why we're doing something. That's the real point. What's the ultimate goal? That's why it says the ultimate goal. Means goals are there. But what's the ultimate goal? So the ultimate goal is to please Krishna. So that's actual piety. That's what we'd call real religion. All these other aspects are religion. But real religion means you're doing your activity to please Krishna. Since you're pleasing Krishna, that means you want to offer the best to Krishna. So then what's offerable to Krishna is something that's religious. So therefore we follow the religious things nicely because the results of that we can offer to Krishna. Right? But for the materialists, they're following the religious processes for what benefit they'll get themselves, not because of what it'll give to Krishna. So that's why it says you have to give up all these religions for Krishna. It doesn't mean you stop doing them, but you give up the goal that they give, that is just to please Krishna. Does that make sense? Much of the time it's taken off. Sarvadharma means we don't follow anything. Oh, I'm a devotee, we don't need to follow the rules. Oh, I'm a devotee, we just chant, we don't follow the rules. Right? But that's not what it means. It means we don't follow the rules because of the benefit of following the rule. We follow the rule because it pleases Krishna. So we look at it, we want to please Krishna, so what do? We follow these rules. So, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I wanted to ask, like, how we should balance our sadhana, seva, like all aspects of devotional service.
How do parents
Balance.
Oh, balance. How to balance sadhana
Seva.
and seva.
Other aspects of devotional service, like sadhana, seva, sadachar, all these things.
Sadhana, seva, and preaching and other activities. Let us say we have one chapati, okay? And we have a very small amount of sabji, right? How much chapati? You break off some chapati. So let's say that we divide this, this sabji up. So the piece of chapati will be bigger or smaller compared to the sabji? Bigger, okay. So now let's say we have the same one chapati, but we have a huge amount of sabji. Then there'll be more sabji. Yeah. That's how you balance. Okay? You see what it is. It's a regular day, it goes one way. It's a festival, it's different. Or there's a big preaching program, it's different. Okay? Okay. Something else? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful lecture. I have a question, like, whatever spiritual credits we have in bhakti, that remains permanent.
Whatever special...
Spiritual karma we do here, that becomes our permanent asset.
Yeah.
Now, when we give some personal service to a devotee, our personal service.
When you do personal service.
Our personal service to some devotee, when we give.
When you give personal service to a devotee.
What happens to our spiritual credits that are permanent?
You want to know if your spiritual credits get lost when you serve devotees. I see. You've had some experience of losing credits when you serve devotees or something. I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita there's a verse something like Bhakta Pada Duli, Bhakta Pada Jal, Bhakta Bhunkte, and then it keeps on going. 18 Maha? 18 Maha? Mahabal. These three have a lot of strength. So what's the anxiety? See, when you do something for Krishna and saying that it's not lost, what is not lost? The bhakti part, right? Let's say the devotees help build this temple, okay? And so then after building the temple, then they want to go somewhere else. So then they come along with big monster truck, and people ask, what's the truck for? And they say, well, I'm putting the temple on the back of the truck and taking it with me. And they say, why you're taking it with me? Because it says in the Gita that whatever the results of your service you've done are not lost. And so I built this temple, so I shouldn't lose it, so I'm taking it with me. Right? In other words, the bhakti is not lost. The secondary forms of what you use, that will transform, it will change. That's just the way energy is. But the bhakti is not. So, therefore, then we're serving Krishna and that devotion's not lost. Then the question comes, when you're serving devotees, why are you doing it? To please Krishna. So then why would it be lost? Okay, now if you're serving the senior devotee because then afterwards then you get all the maha, then there might be a little less bhakti there, so there might be a little less to lose. Okay? You understand? So the point is, if you're doing anything you do to please Krishna, that's what's not lost. Okay? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Use this mic.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Many devotees want to know some of your interactions with Srila Prabhupada and how did you came in Krishna consciousness.
So that's another question you'd have to ask someone else. So anything on the topic on the floor? No? Okay, thank you. Like that. So anything else? Or? Yes. Might come back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for wonderful class and explanation. Maharaj, sometimes it is said that when we do service with the intention of pleasing Krishna, then another level is doing service only for the sake of doing service, not even with the intention of pleasing Krishna. Is there a difference or like that?
So if we're doing service not to please Krishna, then who are we pleasing?
Not even with the intention that the person who is seeing, he'll be pleased. Like sometimes we try to impress someone that in his presence we start doing service. When he's not there, we
no.
don't.
But then, is it if you're trying to impress Krishna, is it to please Krishna? No, it's to please yourself. And if we're just doing it because we're supposed to do it, then we're trying to please the rule of duty. You understand? So the point is duty means dharma, but the real dharma is to please Krishna. So why would we consider not trying to please Krishna? Why would we take that as a lower level? Unless, of course, our background has been that as a karmi, a jnani, or a yogi, where, then, of course, do your duty, that's the highest thing, and stuff like that, and Bharat Ki Jai, and all that kind of jazz. You understand? Krishna is a person, so therefore what he does is simply out of his own pleasure in interaction with the devotees. So why wouldn't it be about pleasing him? The point of you're doing it for duty and not for yourself. That's to apply to yourself, because we do everything for ourselves. So then we're trying to get us to the point of we're performing duties because they should be done. That's the mode of goodness. But still, why are we doing it because it should be done? Is it karma, jnana, or bhakti? Because if I do it in other words, you have to do something with detachment. Right? Naishkarmi is the only thing that's going to get you something. Like the person is doing, let's say, even a karma kanda yajna, can he be desiring the results while he's doing it? No. He has to be performing it in the mood of nishkarma. he's just doing there, he's doing everything, he's pleasing the Brahmins, he's giving in charity, he's doing everything. Once it's done, then the results, yes, that's for his enjoyment. Or the jnani, he's doing the same thing and giving up, but his idea is by giving it up, then there's no karma. Then he'll be liberated. Well, the devotee is doing the same thing again. There's no karma, but it's to please Krishna. So he gets all three. You understand? So that emphasis on you're supposed to do it just because you're supposed to, it's duty, is the mode of goodness. That's because we're in passion or ignorance. But from goodness, you have to get to pure goodness, because goodness is not enough. It's still of this world. It's still, you can't understand Krishna. Right? Because otherwise, if goodness was enough to understand Krishna, why is it Durvasa Muni had problem with Ambarish Maharaj? He's a great yogi. You can't say he's any less. Right? So he's one of the greatest yogis in the universe, but he couldn't understand the Lord and the devotees. So the intent, why you're doing it, that's what's important. And then what do you do? Since it doesn't matter what you do, it's about having the right attitude, then one could make the mistake, oh, it doesn't matter, I can do anything. But then what's that anything that person who says that will do? Whatever pleases them. So that's why it's only about pleasing Krishna, and therefore we do what's recommended. What scriptures say, what Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra says, that's what we do. So the reason that we wear the clothes that we wear, eat the food we do, put on tilak and do all that, is because that's what Shastra recommends. Because otherwise, if you say, oh, it doesn't matter, it's all just about the bhav and the bhakti, but if there's you have to use a form to express that. Does that make sense? There must be something to express it. So what will you use to express it? We use what's recommended. Otherwise, if not, then you will make it up. It'll be mental speculation. So this modern trend is, oh, we don't have to follow all these traditional things like that because it's all just about bhakti. But whose philosophy is like that? That's the Sahajiya philosophy. You know, people may get upset, oh, you can't call it Sahajiya. Of course you can. Sahajiya philosophy it's a Bengali thing, right? And that comes from, they were the Bengali Buddhists. They were following a path called Sahajayan, right? You've heard of Mahayana, Terayan, Hinayan. So they followed Sahajayan. Sahajayan meant no philosophy, no study, no rules, no anything. It's just the bhav about you and Buddha. Okay? Now, when Bengal became Vaishnav, Buddhists were kicked out and all that. So, therefore, now what's the natural thing you do? You accept Vaishnavism, but you keep that philosophy. That's where Sahajiya comes from. Sahajiya means Sahaj, it's easy. You don't have rules, you don't have to study, none of these things like that. It's just about the bhav. But that's what it is. And the other is, no, you follow the rule, that's why you get what it is. But then you're saying bhakti comes from karma, or from jnana, but it's independent. So bhakti comes from bhakti. So these are the middle path is on the pure devotion. And then one side is we can do whatever you want, and the other side is no, you have to exactly do this. But the problem with both of them is where's the bhakti? Where is it about Krishna? No, it's all about the bhakti, I can do whatever I want, means I can do whatever I want. And the other is, no, you can't just do whatever you want. You have to follow the rule and do what the rule says. Where's Krishna in either of these? So that's why Bhagavatam is there to profess pure devotion. Otherwise, Mahabharata's already told about nice karma and being devotional and all that, but it's not the focus. So pure devotion's not the focus in Mahabharata. Not that it's not there, but it's not the focus, because you have 25,000 verses that are on the Pandavas and Krishna and 75,000 that are not. So just by volume, people get distracted. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. How do we know if Krishna is pleased? So then basically one is we're following what was recommended, and 2, we see the Vaishnavas are happy and all that, and 3, we feel satisfaction. But we take our satisfaction as the last in the consideration, not the first. Right? That's what Manu gives. First it has to be according to Veda, then it has to be according to Smriti, then it has to be according to the great personalities. Putting all that together, then if we're satisfied in that, then it's good. Well, if we start with our own satisfaction first, we might not actually get to the other ones. Like that. Okay. Something else, or? You have something? In the back. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. I still have little doubt on the topic you elaborately explained twice. I'm still trying to get my head around it, about the Sarvadharman Parityajya aspect.
Don't worry. If it was difficult, why would it have been waited till after 18 chapters to bring it up?
That's true, but the concept, the reservation or danger in terms of not explicitly defining it, rather than trying to dovetail under the garb of bhakti without defining the other aspects of process of religion. I know you mentioned we don't have to kind of aspire for the goals, other aspects of religions, if those processes can be dovetailed to please Krishna. But the danger can come while doing that, because of our personal aspirations, we tend to attach ourselves to the goals, as well as we go on dual path. So isn't it better, unless we reach to that stage that where we're not attracted to the both aspects, to just say, forget everything, just do bhakti?
The point is, when you say forget everything, just do bhakti, so how do you define that bhakti? What would it look like?
Well, bhakti is very well defined by Krishna and Bhagavatam and other scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, for example. Srila Prabhupada talks about that in the purport of 1866.
Yes. So the point comes down to is, what's the difference externally?
Yep. External difference can be because the Mishra Bhaktis, you can have Karma Mishra Bhakti.
What are you mixing? It's just like, let's say we have Karma Mishra Bhakti. So bhakti is bhakti. There's karma mixed with it, but it's still bhakti that it's mixed with.
But they're two different goals. One is attached to karma goal as well as bhakti goal.
See, the difficulty comes here is that, it's a fun point, we've had this come up again, is when I'm talking about the pure devotion, then you're bringing up, we're not on that platform, so we have to engage according to our nature in the Lord's service. So why are we overemphasizing the higher principle? Okay, nice. Then when I go down to, okay, let's discuss the secondary principles, then you're talking about the primary. So we have to have a consistency here to be able to see the difference. Is, let us say someone is cooking for Krishna. That's a dharma. Cooking has a nature. You can't go against the nature and it come out good. That's why you have good cooks and not so good cooks. The good cooks, they follow the dharma of cooking. They know what frying means, boiling means, baking means. They know all these things. So they follow that dharma. Now let us say someone before joining Krishna consciousness was a chef. Okay? So now naturally, once they get involved and situated in Krishna consciousness, they'd like to cook for Krishna. So now they're following the dharma of cooking and offering the results of that for Krishna. But because of the chef mentality, then the playing around with the concepts of the dharma of cooking that will be quite prominent in their mentality, which is not a problem in the beginning, but ultimately it has to be is they're simply cooking because, not because they like the method of cooking, but they want to please Krishna. So when sarva dharma parityaja means I'm giving up the sense gratification or what gains I would get from the cooking, and I'm just cooking because it pleases Krishna. Now I will use my best techniques that I have as a cook, but the mentality has shifted from the neophyte to the madhyama to the uttama. But the activity of the neophyte cooking, the madhyama cooking, the uttama cooking, the technique is the same. Boiling potatoes will take 20 minutes, whether it doesn't matter if you're a uttamadhikari or you're a neophyte. So that's the meaning, is your focus on the technique, that the taste you're getting in the technique of cooking. And then it's offered to Krishna, as opposed to the taste of simply serving Krishna, and you happen to have the nature to do that as a cook. That's the difference between mixed devotional service and pure devotional service.
But sometimes at pure devotional service one also have to give up, if required, the expertise which we may have and do something which we're not good at.
Maybe if it's required, but generally speaking, when Krishna recommends we work according to our nature, so there's nothing to give up. Now let's say the person was a butcher, now maybe that use of a knife you have to give up, right? I remember one day I was in England, and there was all these devotees, they were coming to India for the festival. And so you had tons of brahmacharis there. And everyone, I think it was the next day, was a program, and then after that they're going to India, so everyone wanted to shave. So there's this one devotee in the bathroom there, and he was shaving all the brahmacharis. You got 30 brahmacharis there, you're thinking, how is this guy going to work? Then you see, he shaves their head perfectly in like a minute or less. I mean, I've never seen anyone like that, just so fast, so perfectly. And no anxiety, really relaxed and everything, and, like that. And then when it came my turn and he's shaving me, while he's shaving, he says, "You're so good at this. You used to be a barber before you joined?" He said, "No, a butcher." As he's shaving, I said, "Okay." So, yes, but the principle of your nature doesn't have to be changed. The detail of it, yes, that has to change. He was a cook before. He was, cooked in the 5-star hotel in Bombay. So there's a lot of non-veg things. But the principle of cooking, that he doesn't have to give up.
I agree, but I can speak of my experience, and I know many other devotees. They came from a totally different background, and when they come to process of bhakti, they are asked or requested to do totally different service. It may not be what they're good at, but because that's what the guru or the authorities want.
No, but what I don't quite get.
Well, my point was.
No, but see, so you have to catch is that in reality, in management, that's one thing, and what you have to do in doing the needful. But in the principle of philosophically what we're talking about, I don't see any difference here.
Anyway, I think that's where I'm getting it not clear in my head. Thank you. I think.
No, but the point is you're mixing up a managerial consideration of who's going to do what.
But isn't that bhakti?
It's engaging management and what needs to be done in Krishna's service. But you have to understand there's the concept that it's based on. So even if, you're doing a service that is not your nature, still, are you doing it to please Krishna, or are you doing it simply to, because you're trying to do that thing nicely?
No, we're doing it to please Krishna because to please
Yes,
Guru.
so then why is that different than what I said before? Just because you end up doing something different than you went to school for.
Because the principle is different.
The principle is not different. No. You have to be able to distinguish what's a principle and what's a detail. Engaging dharma in Krishna's service, because I did use the word dharma, in Krishna's service, then you have to know is it being done for dharma's sake, or is it being done because you want to please Krishna, and it's used as the medium. You have to use something as a medium to express anything. Then within that, now the workings of varnashram dharma, and someone knows how to operate it or doesn't know how to operate it, That is within that realm of that secondary aspect of Dharma. But what I'm talking about is you're still doing that to please Krishna, so it remains the same. Whether you are nicely situated according to your conditioning or not, that's another thing. But the principle is you're able to do things to please Krishna. Or working on the principle of it's coming from authority, so therefore I'm doing that. Now the authority knows what they're doing or not, that's another thing, but I'm following it. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So we'll end here. But it's already, time's up, no? Okay, then this should be the, this is Shantanu, okay. As it is stated in the purport that nevertheless the people of the subterranean heavenly planets die and take another birth according to karma. So my question is that they take their rebirth in the subterranean planets or can take birth in the upper heavenly planets or on the earth. See, according to karma means what have they done? Means to take birth in the heavenly planets means you have to perform the karma to get yourself there, and they're not there, they're on the lower planets. So that means they perform the karma to get there. When the karma's up, you go back to earth. Right? Earth is the central station. Karma is performed here. According to that, then you go to the heaven, then you come back here. You perform karma, you go to the lower planets, then you come back here. Does that make sense? You perform activities here, you go to different places here. So you always come back to here. You don't go from the lower up to the higher, down to the lower, and like that. No, it's always you come back here, then by the activities you perform here. So what we're saying is that they performed their activity, the karma ran out, and then they ended up, back here, right? They did their activity, they went to the subterranean heavenly planets. Karma runs out, means they died, then they come back to here. And then they continue from here, whatever they want to do. The difficulty being is that they already had some taste for sense gratification, but they were pious and followed all the restrictions while they were here. Then they go down to the lower heavenly planets, and then how much restriction is there? But the sense gratification is there, so as a living entity, they get a high taste for sense gratification. Then when they come back here as a human being again, they have a greater sense of desire for sense gratification and not following rules. What's going to happen? They're going to try to engage that desire for sense gratification without following the rules. What's that going to produce? That's going to produce sin. So instead of going to the lower heavenly planets, they'll go to the hellish planets. Right? And then once they finish there, then they'll land back here again. And now gone to the hellish planets, they'll be a little bit more inclined to be a little thoughtful about what they do. So then they might be a little more careful. That's why samsara goes in a circle. Once you get to the top, how do you go down? But if you look at the top, okay, let's say we take the cycle of samsara. It's a circle, right? So let us take, and we divide it in half horizontally, okay? So let us take that the upper half, that would be more towards piety. And then the lower half is more towards sin, or more sinful. Now, but at the same time, as if you're going in a circle, that means from half on the pious side going up, that means it's going up, it's pious, and it's getting better. But when you get to the top, you're going down, but you're still pious, but what's changing? The mentality's changing. Because otherwise, you're still performing the pious activities. And then it goes down, now you're performing sinful, but going lower. But someone else is in the sinful place and is going up. So you have to understand everything's always mixed. Everything's not just in little boxes like they teach you in school. Everything's always mixed. So therefore, because of that mix, that's where the confusion comes up. Does that make sense? Yes. No, it's not here. Just speak. Make some sound. Just say, please. Otherwise, we'll end. One son. Christians also say there's only one son. So. Yes, but the point is from here they look like. No, but what's the no, but what's the point we're getting to here? There's something very urgent you want to say, but what's the point we're trying to get to? No, but what's this material advantage? Where'd that come from? That's like saying, you said that this glass of water here has a lid on it, so therefore I can drive my Ferrari down the road at 90 kilometers an hour. What have the two got to do with each other? One sun means there's one sun, and what does it matter when you want to take advantage of the spiritual or material facilities? How does one sun or not one sun affect that? You understand my doubt here is, why is it whether there's one sun or not that affects how you're going to be enjoying your chapatis at your house? Only if there's two suns, we're on, what's this other, only then then the chapatis taste better or something. But the problem is the planet that has two suns on it, also it's all desert and everything, and so that doesn't seem to be very good there. And I don't even know if they get chapatis over there. Does that make sense? So what does it matter? Your iPhone's going to work whether it's one sun or two suns. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.